Coming soon to own on
YouTube and Twitch.
Why does Sandy live underwater? Now, I think this was explained uh not in the newer episodes of SpongeBob. This was explained in the later halves of the season of SpongeBob. Not fully explained, but I thought if I can remember correctly, she stays underwater because like the Texas science community sent her down there to study the marine life. And like that one episode when the monkeys come underwater to check her progress. But I might be remembering it wrong. That being said, let's get straight into it though.
I think it's such a random detail that one of the characters in an ocean-themed show is a land squirrel. You ever wonder why that is? Why does Sandy Cheeks live at the bottom of the ocean? She needs a full suit and helmet just to breathe, and there's no real reason for her to be down there. I went down that rabbit hole, and what I found proves that Sandy living underwater isn't just a random detail put there by the showrunners, but it actually ties into one of the darkest SpongeBob conspiracies, creating one of the saddest stories in all of SpongeBob.
Talk to me. The homesickness.
The thing that drove me down this rabbit hole in the first place was the fact that Sandy's whole character revolves around two things: her intelligence and her home. Texas is a huge chunk of her identity. It's a pretty frequent gag in the show, actually.
Yeah.
So why would she choose to leave it for a place which is completely foreign and out of her natural habitat? This is no different than if you and I decided to put on diving suits and live in an underwater town. But that doesn't matter. If the reason she lives in Bikini Bottom is because she's somehow happy down there, then the video would be over already. But she's actually shown feeling homesick, such as in the episode Texas, which is an episode all about Sandy missing Texas. She had felt.
But to be fair, on a counterpoint, I feel like majority of people who've moved to better places, or not even better places, who moved to different places they're happy in, they felt like a sense of homesick at least once, like in their life. Like if you go all the way across the country or all the way across the world, yeah, you might be living somewhere way better than where you were, but you're still gonna be homesick from like at least once you're gonna get homesick.
So homesick, in fact, that she actually decided to go back home. The only reason she ended up staying in the end was because SpongeBob and Patrick threw her a Texas-themed party which made her feel at home. This is the most obvious sign of her homesickness, but throughout the show, there are a lot of minor details which hint at her missing her home. For example, she constantly mentions it.
Back in Texas, we call ice cream frozen cow juice.
Or makes references to it.
That there's a Texas-sized bubble.
It's pretty clear that, to some extent, she's not exactly happy in Bikini Bottom, or at least she'd be happier back home. But why did she move in the first place? She doesn't seem like the type of person who got bored of home and wanted a change of scenery. And what's
True.
keeping her from going back? To answer this, it's worth asking something the show kind of glosses over. What does Sandy actually do all day?
Sandy's job.
Think about every main character in Bikini Bottom and what their purpose is. SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs work at the Krusty Krab, Mrs. Puff runs the boating school, Patrick freeloads off SpongeBob, Larry's a lifeguard, even the background fish have jobs. But Sandy, who's supposedly the most intelligent creature in the entire town, is never seen going to work. She doesn't have a boss, nor does she have customers. In short, she's unemployed. But here's the thing, the dome, the equipment in her lab, the systems that keep the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna talk about that one episode with the chipmunks come down because they paid for this. If I remember correctly, that one episode, the chipmunks from Texas on the land, they pay for her dome, her research, they pay for all that.
Running, the air supply, all of it costs money, which has to come from somewhere. And if there's a source for this money, then there's work being done for that source. So in other words, I believe that the reason Sandy lives underwater has something to do with her job. But that still doesn't explain a lot. For starters, why couldn't she have just worked on the surface? So Sandy is pretty well known for being into science. She's always inventing new technology and conducting experiments. And I think it's reasonable to assume that this is her job, since it's the closest thing to work we actually see her do in the show. But we're never really told who's making her do this or why she has to do all this beneath the ocean, with the exception of one episode. In the episode Chimps Ahoy, it is shown
Oh,
that
so they are
Sandy
gonna talk
works
about
for a
it.
corporation called Tree Dome Enterprises. In this episode, 3 chimps who are Sandy's employers came to see if she'd made any new discoveries or inventions. They were the ones overseeing all the work she was doing underwater. They threatened to pull her funding if she didn't show them any new meaningful discoveries. Sandy was devastated because she hadn't made any discoveries, and this meant that she had to leave Bikini Bottom. Quick side note, did you notice that now Sandy's sad to go back home? Haven't I been trying to prove the opposite? Remember this, because it will be important later on in the video. Anyway,
Bet.
why would she have to leave Bikini Bottom? Couldn't she just find another job? I think the reason she'd have to
They just said they won't pull their funding. They pay for all of that. That's why she gonna have to leave.
go back is because her tree dome and everything she owns isn't her property. They're provided by the company, which is a real thing. We've all heard of company cars or company housing. They're only yours until the company decides to fire you or take them away. And there's also the name Tree Dome Enterprises, which imply that the tree dome belongs to them. Keep in
Yep.
mind that Sandy's a squirrel. There aren't a lot of places in the ocean she could just move into, so it would make sense that she'd need to go back home if they took that away. But why would a company go through the trouble of paying for all of that equipment in the ocean? Why the ocean? It must cost
I think when you're trying to like make an innovative breakthrough on a different frontier, you're gonna have to have somebody set up base on that frontier. Like that one space movie, what was it, Martin? Where he was literally was living on Mars trying to grow plants. So like her being in the water, they're trying to make a new breakthrough in a different frontier. Someone's gonna have to actually live in the frontier.
a lot to constantly deliver equipment back and forth, not to mention the constant supply of fresh air that need to be transferred. There must be something about Bikini Bottom specifically which was worth all this trouble.
I was about to say, I remember at Alex Bell theory that really Bikini Bottom and a few other towns are the only talk like fish like this. Everything else is normal fish because like Bikini Atoll was a radioactive bombing site, so they mutated radioactively. I do remember that being a theory.
There's a popular internet theory which explains how Bikini Bottom is named after Bikini Atoll, a real place in the
See?
Pacific where the United States detonated 23 nuclear weapons between 1946
Damn,
and 1958.
damn.
It's been confirmed that Bikini Bottom is located under the islands of Bikini Atoll. But some fans also think that the reason the fish walk upright and act more human with clothes, languages, technologies, and everything is because the radiation from the bombs affected the fish in a way in which they mutated into more evolved versions of themselves. If the creatures in Bikini Bottom are the product of radiation-induced genetic mutation, then what they represent scientifically is unlike anything else on Earth. The applications in medicine, genetics, materials, and science would be worth an extraordinary amount to whoever could study and patent them. And that's where Sandy comes in. Sandy was sent to research the fish in Bikini Bottom and
And she's
Bikini Bottom
studying them.
itself. And this has been in front of our faces since the very start of the show. Like in the episodes The Fishbowl, where Sandy runs behavioral experiments on SpongeBob and Patrick. She has them separate white sand from black sand and purposefully creates variables which cause them to act more feral and angry towards each other. In the beginning of the episode A Fish Called Sandy, Sandy had written a scientific paper about the ocean and its creatures. This is clear evidence that she studies the ocean. This puts to
True.
question her relationship with her friends. Is she really their friend, or is she simply studying?
I think she's actually friends with SpongeBob. She just tolerates Squidward. I mean not Squidward, Patrick. She tolerates Patrick. She uses Squidward to her advantages, and she's cordial with Pearl. Everybody else, I think she just doesn't care about them. They're like just studying them.
Them. So that's the video. Sandy wasn't just a squirrel who wanted a change of scenery. She was sent to study what the effects of long exposure to radiation have on sea life. But wait, if Sandy has been living in one of the most heavily radiated environments on Earth for years, wouldn't that mean that Sandy herself is?
Contaminated. It would make sense though because she is a talking squirrel.
During the Bikini Atoll bombings, a number of land creatures were exposed to the radiation from the bombs. Animals such as rats and guinea pigs. This was done to study the effects of radiation. Ironically, that's what Sandy's going through as well. Have you ever wondered why Sandy wears a full spacesuit when every other air-breathing creature who comes underwater just uses a bowl? When SpongeBob visits Sandy's dome, he only puts a fishbowl on his head. When the chimps from Chimps Ahoy step out of their submarine into the ocean, they use a bowl. They're the same type
Never
of
actually
creature
thought
as
about it.
Sandy, air-breathing land mammals, and a bowl is all they need. And this is also true for Sandy. In the episode Pressure, Sandy wanted to prove that land creatures are better than sea creatures, so she took off her helmet and suit to prove that she didn't need them. But she couldn't hold her breath for long. and after she couldn't last any longer, she rummaged around for something to give her air, and all she needed to breathe was a pickle jar. This implies that Sandy doesn't need the suit to breathe. But if it isn't there to help her breathe, why does she wear it? The difference between the fish
True.
folk who don't wear a suit is that they're already radioactive. The chimps don't wear a suit because they're only there for a day. Sandy, on the other hand, lives in Bikini Bottom all the time. So what if the suit's real use is to shield her from any radiation still in Bikini Bottom? If you look really closely at the patch on Sandy's suit, it was changed from the one in the early seasons. The one from the beginning kinda looks like a radiation symbol.
I never even noticed the change. I always thought it was an acorn.
But if the suit is there to protect her, then why am I claiming that she's contaminated? In the show, Sandy has two main outfits: her regular spacesuit and a bikini with a skirt. Whenever she's not wearing the suit, she's unprotected. Short exposure might not be harmful to her, but over the years, it's accumulated enough to have an effect. You might claim that whenever Sandy is not in her spacesuit, she's shielded by her dome, but that's not the case. In the
It's not.
Season 2 episode, Survival of the Idiots, Sandy was hibernating for the winter, meaning that she spent a large amount of time in her tree dome without her suit. So what does she do? She seals her entire dome with metal. Metal, like lead and steel, which happens to be ideal for shielding radiation. Keep in mind that the show never explains why she has a full metal casing all over her house in that episode. Now, why do I think her regular tree dome is not safe? In the episode Tea at the Tree Dome, Sandy tells SpongeBob that her dome is made from polyurethane. This material doesn't do anything at all to stop radiation. Knowing all this would explain why Sandy only considers going home permanently in early SpongeBob episodes. Because back then, it wasn't too late for her. But now, going back for so long would put anyone she comes in contact with at risk. This could be
Now
why she
she's
didn't want to
just
go back home
cooked.
in Chimps Ahoy.
The real danger.
But there's something else which felt a little fishy about Sandy. In the episode Feral Friends, Neptune's moon rises over Bikini Bottom and starts
they turn to
reverting every
primal.
sea creature to its primitive feral state, kind
Yep.
of reversing the effects of Bikini Atoll. The whole town devolves one by one, and Sandy walks through all of it unaffected because the moon only works on sea life. She immediately knows what to do and who to call to stop this chaos. A diver, also in a full
showrunner.
pressurized suit, who by the looks of it already knows Sandy well, and this diver is worth paying attention to. In the SpongeBob movie, the same diver appears, meaning this guy is frequently in the ocean, much like Sandy. He also has a picture of Sandy, implying that they really are close to each other. They probably work for the same people. But let's take a step back. Sandy was somehow equipped to handle this situation. Could it be that she's simply not only researching the fish, but also responsible for making sure that the subjects remain unharmed? If you think
I mean, if you're researching them and being paid to that, I feel like that makes sense. You should kind of like not your main job, but like subconsciously to make sure the fish don't die or your subjects don't die.
about it, Sandy's always there to save the day, every single time there's danger. Also, isn't it weird that Sandy just so happens to be a very skilled fighter? It's almost like the people that sent her there wanted their scientists to be prepared for whatever danger Bikini Bottom might face. But the
True.
thing is, I don't believe Sandy is simply doing her job. She's shown to care for SpongeBob and all other fish in Bikini Bottom. We saw how she chose to stay because of her friends in Bikini Bottom. She cares about these fish, enough to risk her life for them time and time again and give up any chance of going back home to keep them safe. And that's the theory. That's why Sandy lives in Bikini Bottom. But there's still a couple details that aren't fitting in the puzzle, like these two. What are Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy's role in all of this? Better yet, what's the deal with this fish? If you want a second part where I tackle these, let me know in the comments below.
But sure, that was why does Sandy live underwater? Now, kind of like I said earlier at the start, I feel like it was the company paying her to stay down there, and they were paying for her living. And her job is basically to study the fish and kind of like I wouldn't say control the environment, but you know, kind of softly control the environment. That's why she's down there. I like how he brought up the fact that she was infected with the radiation because how long she's been down there, how long she's been around these like irradiated fish. I never even thought of that. Not even gonna lie, but that was why does Sandy live underwater? Let me know how y'all feel about that down below. I'll see y'all later.
Shawty wanna play my braids. Shawty wanna match my J's. No fine shit that I take. You mind, bitch, say my name. Who as fuck, she scream my name. Little trippin' of love and flames. Big pimpin' above the games. Oh, you trickin' on hoes and shame.